Should I get the Ricoh GR3 or GR IIIx, or should I get the Fujifilm X-M5? Both cameras are compact. They both have amazing raw image quality for an APS-C sensor. They both shoot amazing JPEGs using film simulations, and both have a cult following. And even though they seem pretty similar from a spec and surface level perspective, they're actually built for totally different kinds of photographers. So in this video, I'm going to settle it with rapid fire categories to help you figure out which one is right for you. Before we jump into how these perform, I wanted to take a moment to thank today's video sponsor, Squarespace. I've actually been using Squarespace for over 10 years. Their templates and easy to use interface make it incredibly simple to create and maintain a professional looking website without any coding experience necessary. For me, my Squarespace website was an essential part of how I built my photography business. It allowed me to showcase my portfolio, share recent work on a blog, and also receive inquiries from potential clients through a contact form. If you're one of those photographers relying solely on Instagram as your sole place to share your work and build your photography business, I would really consider making a website on Squarespace. You can visit squarespace.com/Reggie Ballesteros to start a free trial and get 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. Thank you again to Squarespace for sponsoring this video. So portability, Ricoh gets the win here. The Ricoh is truly pocketable. And when I say pocketable, I usually mean that it actually fit in a pocket of your pants, like a skinny jeans type pocket, not really like a coat pocket or a hoodie pocket. The XM5 is compact for an interchangeable lens camera, but once you put a lens on it, it's not really going to fit. And the closest that you might get is if you have one of the pancake lenses like a Voigtlander 18 2.8 or the Fujifilm 27 2.8. In general, the Ricoh wins here because even with the lens, it can collapse in and it fits in the pocket. The JPEG look, the JPEG film simulation look. I will call this a tie. This is going to be a controversial opinion. You can work both looks to be somewhat equivalent. And if you can't do that, I'm just going to come out and say it's a skill issue. It's a creative eye issue. It's a technical issue that you don't know how to adjust specific settings of your camera, because I've created a film simulation, Reggie's portrait on Fujifilm. Everyone loves it. I created a film simulation that's very similar, but actually has a little bit more punch to it because of just the native settings of Ricoh. And people on Fujifilm are asking me to make this film simulation for Fujifilm. Because they have both sought after film simulations, I want to say that they're pretty much tie. And I will say the white balance adjustments and just the native auto white balance of the Ricoh is a little bit of a step down from Fujifilm in terms of skin tones. Viewfinder. So either an optical viewfinder, an OVF, or an electronic viewfinder, EVF. Neither camera has these. So if you're looking for that type of experience or you're shooting out in the sun, you're not going to have an EVF. I will say that the Ricoh does have an outdoor view brightness mode that helps combat this, which the Fujifilm does not have this. For custom color control and being able to make recipes, I'm going to give this a tie because the film simulations on Fujifilm, you can adjust them all, as well as the Ricoh. I think the one thing with the Ricoh that has a better edge is that if you go into the in-camera editor to change your film simulation is going to look, the Ricoh actually can save all the recipes in the editor. The Fujifilm, you always have to start from scratch and you cannot pull saved recipe banks, which kind of sucks because you have to like know them off the top of your head and re-input them in the in-camera editor. Autofocus tracking, hands down, goes to the Fujifilm. Fujifilm has pretty good subject detection and continuous autofocus on the XM5. I can't say the same for previous Fujifilm models. Ricoh has very good autofocus single. I've actually never tried the autofocus continuous, so maybe it's good. I don't know, but I don't really shoot it in that way. So I give it to the Fujifilm for the tracking. All right, so zone focusing. So if you're a street photographer or somebody who likes to pre-focus on certain distances, Ricoh is going to be the best for this because it has a snap focus, which is basically a zone focusing system, which lets you pre-focus and create an aperture zone. No lag. You basically just hit the shutter and it already goes to the set spot. If you want to do any type of video or vlogging, XM5 is the clear winner, and I think that is actually probably the biggest strength of the XM5 as a camera as a whole, is that is a baby XS20, which is a baby Fujifilm XS20. So basically Fujifilm's current video flagship camera, this is like the mini version of that. It has 6.2K resolution open gate. It can shoot F-Log 2, but it has a mic input. It's basically set up so you can do professional video with it if you want to. It's any type of content video aspirations that you have, XM5 is going to do great. Built-in flash. Again, another one where no camera wins on this one. Both cameras do not have a built-in flash. They have hot shoes, so if you want to put an external flash on the hot shoe, you can do that. But there's no pop-up flash or internal flash built on the side, for example, like what is on the X100V or the X70. Flash support. Fujifilm wins on this. They both have hot shoes, and actually the Ricoh has a leaf shutter, which is a slight advantage. That means you could shoot at very high shutter speeds and not have to worry about sync speed. With that said, the implementation of Ricoh's flash is terrible. They don't have a mode where you can turn off the preview exposure, so you're going to have to shoot blind with a dark LCD screen unless you do this one hack, which is it's not a native hack. LCD screen experience. Here, between the two, the Fujifilm X-M5 wins out because it actually has a fully articulating screen that comes out. I will say it is a little annoying that it doesn't come out and tilt normally because of those center compositions are going to be a little bit difficult because you have to look off to the side. I would have preferred if it would be a normal tilt screen similar to the XE5 that they just announced. Lens flexibility. This goes to the Fujifilm. When you get the Fujifilm X-M5, you're buying into the Fujifilm X-mount ecosystem, which is a great ecosystem both for native glass and even third-party lenses are pretty good with Viltrox and Voigtlander as well as Sigma. With the Ricoh, you have the fixed lenses. So you have the 28mm equivalent and the 40mm equivalent. If you're not falling within those two focal lengths or dedicated to learn those two focal lengths, then perhaps the Fujifilm is going to be a better fit for you because you can have other focal lengths like a 35 or a 50 or something wider like a 24 equivalent if you want to explore those focal lengths. When it comes to durability, a lot of people say the Ricohs are not durable. I have never had that personal experience, but a lot of people say they don't last long. So I don't know. I'll give the edge to the Fujifilm just so that nobody comes back and gets mad at me, but I have never had any problems with Ricoh cameras in terms of durability, but a lot of people say they do. So this is not a clear winner to me. Everyone's going to say Ricoh dust issue, button issue, all that stuff. I've never had any of these issues. And I put it in my pocket. I don't baby the camera. Battery life. Between the two, the Fujifilm wins out on this. I'm going to say that I wish the Fujifilm X-M5 had the updated newer battery, but that would have compromised on the size of the camera. With the Ricoh, on the other hand, the battery life is not that great. Usually, I bring 2 to 3 batteries for the Ricoh. When you're out in a daily shooting, just like every once in a while you're going to take a photo, it could last you a whole day. But if you're dedicated shooting, like you're going on a trip and you're taking photos every 5 to 10 minutes or, a good amount of shooting, you're going to have to change the Ricoh battery at least once, maybe twice during the day. With the Fujifilm, you could probably last the whole day if you're not shooting video and you're only doing photos, but once you start shooting video, I would highly recommend to invest in 1 or 2 more batteries. They're a great investment to keep you going. The other thing too is both of these have USB-C charging. So that's another consideration. If you're going to have a break during whenever you're shooting, they both have USB-C charging, which means you can just use a power bank to give you some extra juice to shoot later on in the day. All right, so we're going to get into some more situational genre type stuff. And to be honest, I will say depending on your personal preference, your experience, your skill set, they're pretty subjective. I want to say you can skew one either way depending on who you are and how much skills you have. So don't just take my word for it. You got to trust your gut or also take a gamble if you really feel like, okay, I don't agree with this. Maybe I'll have a different experience. But with casual snapshots, you're just going to have a camera with you and you just don't know if you're going to take some stuff, but you want to take it with you, the Ricoh wins. Put it in your bag, put it in your pocket, and when you feel like you want to take a picture with your phone, just use the Ricoh. With a film simulation recipe, it's going to be a more aesthetically pleasing photo than your phone. If you like not editing, that's my thing. You don't have to mess with lens caps. You don't have to mess with attaching a lens, all that stuff. Casual snapshots every day, the Ricoh wins. When it comes to street photography, if you want the most small, silent, discreet camera, one that doesn't look aesthetically flashy, the Ricoh is going to win. You can shoot from the hip with it. It has zone focusing. It is just a discreet looking camera. I mean, mine is not discreet because I have all these purple accessories on it and stuff like that. But even then, it's still more discreet than the Fujifilm X-M5. Which is silver. People are going to ask questions about it because they think it looks cool, whatever. I will say that if you are a street photographer that loves longer focal lengths than 40mm, then you're going to want to go with the X-M5, maybe with a 35mm 1.4. That might be a good street photography setup. I don't shoot street photography, so I don't know. So a spontaneous trip or a day trip, you're going to go out for a whole day and you don't know what you're going to do, right? I feel like the Ricoh is perfect for spontaneous trips, errands, things like that. If you're going out with your kids and you want to document stuff, that's fine with that too. You don't really have to think about it. I will say that the Fujifilm, if you have a compact lens or maybe you bring 1 or 2 lenses, that could have an advantage. And also if you want to take video on the trip, it's going to have to be the Fujifilm. Low light photography. I will say the edge goes to the Fujifilm. The GR cameras do have IBIS. The XM5 does not have IBIS. But from my experience, the X-Trans 5 sensor combined with the X Processor 5 just delivers a cleaner overall high ISO image, specifically for the JPEGs. That's not to say you can't shoot low light photos with GR. I do it all the time. But in terms of like clean images, the XM5 is probably cleaner to a beginner's eye. All right, so documenting family, especially if you have young kids. If you're an experienced photographer and you're practiced at pre-focusing and knowing how to take advantage, maximize the performance of a poor autofocus system, either one is good. And the GR is going to be more compact and it's going to be easier to get more candid photos because kids won't really look at the GR that much. With that said, if you're a beginner, you don't know your way around autofocus, or if you're like a Sony photographer, a Nikon photographer that has really great autofocus and wants a smaller camera, probably the Fujifilm will be closer to the autofocus you expect. It's still not as good as a Sony, but it's going to be more usable, at least hopefully, for kids. So if you're trying to photograph people running around, things like that, and you don't know how to pre-focus or predict motion, then the XM5 is probably better for your skill level. When it comes to event shooting, I honestly think neither one are preferred for event shooting because they don't have viewfinders. But if you're doing like birthday parties, maybe you're going to go to a wedding as a guest and take some stuff, you want to change lenses and have different perspectives, the Fujifilm is going to give you more flexibility for that. That's not to say you can't use the Ricoh as kind of like a side camera to a more dedicated kit, because I've seen people do that too. Portrait photography. For beginner level portraits, I would say the Fujifilm, because you can put a 56 or a 90 millimeter, get the super shallow depth of field if you're still beginning in portraits. But I will say you can shoot portraits with the Ricoh. I have a whole video on how to maximize portrait shooting with the Ricoh. It's doable if you have practice. And for pro or client work, this is assuming that you're like a beginner that has never really done client work and is taking on your first client. I would recommend the Fujifilm, mainly because with the Ricoh, you really have to understand your skill level and composition to do that. I have done pro work with the Ricoh, but I also have close to 12, 13 years of professional experience, which you may not have. So if you're a beginner, check out the Fujifilm, as it can let you be able to expand into different lens selections, different outputs. You can do video. It's probably going to be the better investment if you want to go to the pro level eventually. That's not to say that a Ricoh, you could start with it, and then if you need to grow into a different camera, you can go into any system you want because the lens is already included. So you're not stuck to the Fujifilm X-mount system. You could have a Ricoh with a Nikon system, or Ricoh with a Canon system, Ricoh with a Sony system. Overall fun factor. I think this is a tie, and it just depends on what you find is fun. If you find having a camera you can throw in your pocket and shoot whenever and wherever, the Ricoh is going to be the most fun. If you want to have more of a tactile experience, if you want to mess with different film simulations and maybe mess with video, then the XM5 is going to be more fun. It just depends. Both cameras are going to be fun. If you only had one, I don't think you will regret a decision if you only had one. Whichever way you go, just trust your gut. All right, so price. So the XM5 is cheaper, right? Cheaper, I think it's $799 just for the camera. But you have to think about it is that it does not include a lens. And sure, you can get a very cheap lens or you can get a kit lens, but those are not going to be the same quality that the Ricoh has out of the box. The Ricoh lenses out of the box are extremely good, and I want to say on par or better than some of Fujifilm's best pancake lenses that they have. So the 27 2.8, which I think is the most comparable to the Ricoh GR IIIx, I feel like the Ricoh lens is a lot sharper. So you have to think about it in that way. The 27 2.8 on Fujifilm, I want to say is like $400, maybe $500. So once you add that onto the $800, you're actually going to be a little bit more comparable in price. So at that case, if you want an all-in-one package for the cheapest, the Ricoh has a slight edge. But I think the one thing is the used market and the available limited stock market has both of the prices of these cameras rising very high. The last thing is availability, which I feel is both of them lose. Neither of them have very readily available stock. Even the used market is very expensive. So try to find which one you can get. As far as what is a good deal, I have no clue. I bought them both brand new with my own money before they got overpriced in the secondhand market. So I don't know. But generally speaking, conclusions. If you want the most compact, frictionless camera for street everyday stuff, travel, go with the Ricoh. Or if you want a very great side camera to an existing system that you have, go with the Ricoh. But if you want a camera, you don't have invested in a system yet, maybe you're interested in investing in Fujifilm system, then go with the XM5 because it can be compact, but it can also expand to something else, whatever creative need you have, whether it's video, different lenses, that kind of thing. So that might be a better investment if you have that type of idea. I personally think there's a case for owning both. But I know I have a privilege of being able to own both, and I understand that most of you only have the budget for one. So I hope this video helped and didn't confuse you more, because that's a possibility too. Let me know which one you would choose, or which one, if you own one, which one you did choose and why in the comments, and share some experiences so that we can make this particular video a good resource for people trying to decide which camera to get if they're choosing between the two. And if you're looking for film simulation recipes for either camera system, check out these two videos over here.